asked permission, would it be okay if I share? Would you mind if I share ABC? He said, yep. I worked through one by one. And then I checked to ensure that he was okay as I progressed. So check, does that help, right? Any other questions about that, et cetera, et cetera? He said, yep, great. And what happened at the end? You heard the call.
That's right. He then accepted, okay, now I'm ready to push this forward.
Push this forward. So he didn't push this forward to decision. He said, I'm happy to go to the next step.
Yeah.
But the message that we got first was, I'm out.
Yeah, it was a hard line. I'm out.
I'm done.
Yeah, he accepted the call out of
Correct.
courtesy to say thank you, and he's basically was leaving.
And we were able to move it. Now, we haven't got him to a point of, yes, I'm ready to sign the contract, but we've got him back into the zone of, I'm at a point I want to evaluate this business case. Yeah. So the mindset completely shifted. And we know why, because there's task tension. When we ask people to make a decision, task tension kicks in. It's our job to manage that tension. Tension's good because it means people have to get to a point of decision. But what can often happen is task tension can stop people from taking action, right? And if you're not careful, if you're responding too early, if you're trying to sell them or manipulate them to a point of decision, what they'll do, they'll just leave. That's when ghosting is when they will ghost you to a point where the trust levels have gone. So once task tension occurs, you try to sell, relationship tension kicks in. Relationship tension is no good because it means there's no trust.
So do you find, that's a good point there, do you find that ghosting can often occur when you've lost trust?
Correct, when you're pushing your agenda.
Okay.
This is why I say don't handle the objection. You don't handle it, you've got to manage it. You've got to manage the concern that's sitting behind it. There's emotion sitting there. 93% of the decisions people make is emotion-based, and then they justify it with logic. Right? Nobody wants to feel forced to buy, right? But they want to be in control of making a decision. So this is where we've got to this is where the science of selling goes to the side and the art of selling kicks in. This is where tonality, your intuition takes play, know when to speed up, know when to decrease, yeah? You've got to start to manage that conversation and manage the tension. Again, you can do it on B2C products, you can do it in enterprise sales. It's exactly the same process, yeah? It's about understanding that the person making the decision is a human, right? Doesn't matter if they're spending their own money or they're spending a company's money. In fact, there's a lot more emotion when you're spending your company's money.
How so?
Because if you fuck up, it's on you, right? And the organization's going to say, hey, you've just made a mistake with a certain amount of cash from the balance sheet. If it's my personal money, okay, I stuff up, I answer to me or answer to my family. Does that make sense? Yeah. So there can be, especially if you've been in an organization where they've had issues occur in the past, where spending has been, you've used money, it hasn't worked, it's got a heightened sense of, you know what, we can't fail here. That's why 40 to 60% of deals in the enterprise world end up in no decision. They don't progress. It's because people fear. They have a fear that their internal team might not be able to execute on X initiative, or they fear that what you say about your product or service might not actually do what you say. Again, 40 to 60% of deals.
That's a big trust and brand
massive,
issue.
Right? So this is, again, why you need to manage that. And especially if you think about enterprise deals, Dave, what do we got? We've got 9 to 13 people are involved in the buying committee. It's not like one person. There's quite a few. So there's going to be varying degrees of trust across that buying committee. So you've got to make sure that if there are people in the committee that you're not seeing, you've got to draw out the concern anyway. This is where you need to leverage your champion. And we can go, we're moving away from managing objections, but this is why there's so many nuances to mid-market and enterprise sales we need to be thinking about, because there's so many people involved in that buying committee, right? So again, this is where buyer enablement kicks in further to go, right, what's the information that committee needs to have in order to get to a decision? How does it reflect the CFO's role? How does it reflect the COO? Procurement, right? Risk. Like we know this. Big companies, they've got a person that assesses tech platforms before they can say yes to make sure it meets security, right? That's an objection. If you don't handle it early, it's going to kill your deal.